Thank you, President Zamora. And I'd like to start off by congratulating you and the College District for hosting this Sustainability Summit. It's the right thing to do. We need to be kind to the earth. Our parents didn't give it to us. It's on loan from our children and grandchildren. And you know, the college has walked the talk. They have been sustainable over the 30 years I have been working with them. This campus has a thermal storage system, chill water storage systems, which uses electricity at night so they can back off using electricity during the hot afternoons. They also, Northlake College, bought the first oil-free chiller over 10 years ago to come into the Dallas-Fort Worth market. So yes, they are walking the talk on sustainability. But you know, sustainability is a fuzzy word. And I had to come up with a definition that I like. And it's providing for the needs of today without compromising our capability to provide for future generations. So, you know, that's my definition. And in our industry, it's about resources, just like President Zamora said. And, you know, the one thing we focus on mostly is conserving electricity, because our state is exploding in population and we are afraid of running out of electricity. So we work hard on that. Food is another resource that we need to be aware of as the Earth's population now, what is around 7 billion people and continuing to grow. You know, my 5-year-old granddaughter said, don't worry, Grandpa, there's plenty of food at Tom Thumb. We're not going to run out. And I had to explain to her, honey, you know, that's nice, but food really comes from farms. And so I had to explain to her what a farm was, and et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I was fortunate. My dad was a farmer, and I got to spend my high school years with him. And he introduced me to farming. Early on, he put me in charge of the pig pens and the manure spreader. And eventually, I did get to drive a tractor. And so farming is very interesting. And we have our keynote speaker today is going to give us some insight into some very creative ways in touch with humor on how the farming industry works from his point of view. Mr. Joel Salatin is not only a farmer, he's a distinguished lecturer on the circuit, and he's a published author. I got to read you some of the books that he's written here. Very interesting. How about Salad Bar Beef? How about Holy Cows in Hog Heaven? Another book he's authored is Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. Now, we hope he doesn't drill down too deep into that topic. And this would probably be my first one I want to read. It's The Sheer Ecstasy of Being a Lunatic Farmer. Now, I am not brave enough to introduce Joel as a lunatic farmer. I'm not that brave. But I am going to tell you, I think you're going to enjoy very much what he has to say about the farming industry. So give me a hand. Now let's give him a hand, Joel.
Thank you. It's great to be with you today and kind of open up this doing things right, doing the right things for the people, the planet, and the economy. I think you changed that, President Zamora, here when you had you got it alliterated: people, planet, and profit instead of people, planet, and economy. That's a refinement. That is a good refinement. I don't know if you brought that, but that's a good one. I've got a lot to say, so I'll say it fast. Put your ears on, and we're going to cover a lot of ground. As I was thinking about this topic and the theme for this summit, doing the right things, it struck me. Well, if we're going to all come together and talk about doing the right things, maybe it's good to just contextualize where we are and identify some of the wrong things we've been doing for a little bit, so we can juxtapose those as we go to as we look at some of the solutions. And So I've got 6 things that I think we've been doing wrong, and then I've got 6 things that we can do, change those to do them right, if you will. So we're going to start negative and we're going to end up positive. Is that okay? That's a good train of thought. All right, good train. Yes, thank you. It's hard to stop a train. All right. So here we go. You ready? The first thing we've done wrong is we have depleted our soils. I think a lot of people don't think about soils because they're just out there. You know, they're on a Clorox commercial, you know, to wash it out of your clothes. And about the closest people get to soils anymore is grass stains on soccer jeans. You know, that's about the closest we get. But the fact is that our nation is desertifying and losing soils faster than any other civilization in the history of humankind, partly because we've been able to mechanize with cheap energy and mechanization to do more destruction. I mean, when you're just running a sharp stick behind an oxen all day or a water buffalo, you can only destroy it so fast, right? But when you're running a 500 horsepower turbocharged 8-wheel drive John Deere pulling a 15 bottom plow, you can touch a lot of land real fast. And so we have been depleting soil, and nationwide we have dropped from about an average of 8% organic matter to 1%. And it's not just in the U.S. Australia has gone from an average of 17% organic matter in 1820 down to less than 1% organic matter. And realize that it is the organic matter that creates the sponginess and the resilience that actually feeds the soil microbial life. You know, if you look under an electron microscope at the soil, it's just not inert stuff sitting there. It's a web of a whole community of beings. I mean, you look in there in an electron microscope, here comes a four-legged, cow-looking thing walking across, and saliva jumping off his mandibles. He's grazing on little cilia, and all of a sudden, from 10 o'clock, in comes a narwhal with a spear on his head, 6-legged critter coming in. He impales the side of the bloop the thing and sucks out all the juice. The juice flies everywhere and just bloop the thing. He's in shock. And before he can even turn around, in from 2 o'clock comes a scissor-headed thing. He comes in with scissors on his head and he lops off the head of the bloop thing and eats it all up. And all this happens in 2 seconds under this electron microscope. We are completely dependent on this universe of invisible beings under our feet. There are more beings, and they're having summits and, school board meetings and, probably, I hope they're not in legislative session. I always get scared when legislature's in session. But they're down there in the soil, doing all these things, and we don't even think about them. We are completely and utterly dependent on a world of invisibility. And yet, when's the last time you saw them addressed in a business plan? Have you ever gone to the bank with a business plan? The bank says, "Ooh, this is good. I think I want to be your partner. We're gonna make a lot of money here. But I've got one question for you before I sign to be your partner. What's this going to do to the gibberellins and the actinomycetes and the earthworms in the community?" Nobody even asks. We wake up in the morning and we look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average to see whether those are going up and down. But is there an ecology chart? New supermall pays over 5 million earthworms, down. I mean, we don't see those kinds of balance sheets, see. And yet, folks, we have 3 trillion bacteria in us, some of us more than others maybe, and 2 trillion in a handful of healthy soil, and everything we are and live. MIT now says that we are only 15% human. We're 85% non-human. I mean, we're all like, if we could take a picture of ourselves with an electron microscope, we all have this aura, a little like Pigpen in the Peanuts comic strips, where my aura is in getting in with yours and all this. And we have all this stuff going on. So soil. Number 2, dehydration. Dehydration. And anybody who lives in Texas knows that dehydration is a huge problem. This is caused by a lot of things. Obviously, water usage. I mean, haven't we gotten over putting potable water in toilets? When are we going to quit putting potable water in toilets? Tillage. We bare soil all the time. we are still a culture that worships tillage and monocropping. And in fact, the 6 crops that we subsidize are all annuals that require tillage, that destroys organic matter, that reduces the ability of the soil to hold water. Overgrazing, a lack of vegetation on the soil surface. This reduces the ability of water to infiltrate. No organic matter lets the water run off faster. 1 pound of organic matter holds 4 pounds of water. It is the sponge. This soil, life that I was talking about is the sponge. So we've got a massive dehydration problem with a lack of vegetation, with a lack of soil cover, with tillage systems and excessive water use. Number 3, a segregated mentality. We've been building segregation for a long time. You realize that 75% of everything that's gone in landfills in the U.S. is compostable. 75% of what's gone in landfills have been compostable. If that had not gone into landfills and been composted, not only would we have saved our landfills, we would have been able to eliminate petroleum-based fertilizer by composting to fertilize our fields. Not only would we have been able to grow what we need to grow, but we would have done it without chemicals. We have this notion of segregated food. Food is produced over here and we eat it over here. We, waste streams in general. Think about concentrated animal feeding operations where we get the fertilizer, across the world somewhere, and we bring it in and we grow crops over here to feed animals over here, to take the manure over here and eat the animals over here and process them over here, and we have a fundamentally segregated system. Segregation didn't work socially, and it doesn't work from an energy and a food and farming system. We've eliminated food from our kitchens. No culture has ever spent more money remodeling and techno-gadgetizing their kitchens and been more lost as to where they are. How do you use this stuff? I don't know. To the point that we have actually become a culture that practices environmentalism by abandonment. We have this notion that in order to be an environmentalist, we have to abandon things. The only way to be an environmentalist is to get rid of all the humans. As if we can all live in some, mystical netherland, levitating between the earth and the heavens, so that we don't desecrate the environment with our breath. So the only way we can be an environmentalist is to lock up land and put it in parks and wilderness areas and get rid of people. To the point where we say, I'm going to go, I've got to go get on a jet and go to the Rocky Mountains to commune with nature. We are nature. Let's learn to live in this ecological womb in a way that's not a liability. Number 4. We have been practicing an adulteration mentality toward the world of biology. Adulteration. We have viewed biology strictly from a mechanical sense rather than a biological sense. This has come as a result of course, Justus von Liebig, who in 1837 with his vacuum tubes told us that all of life is just a rearrangement of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. It just depends on what ratio it is, whether you pop out a cat, a human, or a tomato plant. And this mechanistic view toward life fundamentally changed the way we view life, so that we don't ask whether it's important that a pig expresses its pigness. That never enters into the equation. Grow faster, fatter, bigger, cheaper. That there's no moral ethical framework. There's no boundary on what we can creatively manipulate and create. As if biology is just sheet metal or plumbing fittings. We know that's not true, because biology is fundamentally different than mechanics. The big difference is biological beings, biological things can heal. You know, if you go out of here today and your right front wheel bearing goes thump, 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 and you, oh no, you know, the wheel bearing's out. You can go around there with that wheel bearing and you can lay your hands on it. I'm so sorry I didn't lubricate you. I mean, you can just apologize to you. You want to rest? You want to rest a little bit? Okay, all right, well, I'll read a book here while we rest. You know, we rest on the side of the road. You want some lunch? You know, I mean, you can all sorts of stuff over that wheel bearing. When you get back in that car, you can let it rest 5 years, and when you start in that car, guess what's going to happen? Thump, thump, thump. But people, living things, can forgive and heal. And aren't we grateful? We can forgive and redeem from a word unfitly spoken, from emotional wounds, from physical wounds. Beings can heal. And so we know that it's not a mechanical system. So we've developed it because we have this adulteration mentality. We've developed cardboard food. I mean, all the research going into tomatoes in the last 30 years is how to make them withstand 3,000 bouncing miles across the country in a tractor trailer. And that's why they taste like cardboard. You know, all we do is try to figure out how to make animals grow faster, fatter, bigger, cheaper. We know that isn't the proper way to do it. That's not very sacred. I mean, we don't even do that with people. That's why the average NFL football player, this is a good place to mention football in Dallas, we know the average football player is dead at 57. Why? When your neck is bigger than your head, you're a freak of nature. Nature weeds you out. So we know fundamentally there are boundaries to our cleverness. We've created food that's unpronounceable, food that won't rot. You know, it's like we can segregate our living being from food even. I mean, you squeeze Velveeta on the table, it just sits there. I mean, what food out here in the vending machine in the hall spoils? And if it won't rot and it won't spoil, it won't digest. And it's full of unpronounceable things. I mean, I agree with Michael Pollan. You know, we shouldn't be eating anything that wasn't available before 1900. And we can all be very thankful that hot dogs were introduced at the 1890 World's Fair. You know, but it's not mechanical. It's not mechanical. And now, because we've taken this mechanical view, you know, the U.S. now leads the world in the five chronic leaders of chronic illness. You know, heart disease and type 2 diabetes and cancer and all these things. You know, this is what enabled the country, the U.S., I call it the U.S. duh, to USDA, U.S. duh, right? Okay. This is why they were able to take farmers like me to steak dinners for 30 years to teach us the new science of feeding cows, where they encouraged us to feed cows, dead cows. Our farm did not embrace that science, not because we were Luddites or hated scientists or hated the U.S. duh, but because there was no pattern in nature, no template in which herbivores ate carrion. See, there is a higher law than just human cleverness. Number 5, what we've done wrong is monospeciation. Everywhere you look in nature, it's all about multi-speciation, symbiosis, synergism, and very complex, relationally organized plant communities. And what we've done is created monospeciation, single crops, you know, apple orchard, cattle farm, dairy. You know, we've segregated, we've monospeciated, which stimulates pathogenicity because the pathogens don't have to work hard to find a new host. When you have natural complex ecosystems, pathogens have a real problem with confusion because it's hard to find a host. There's all these weird things in between me and the next possible host. Next possible host and me. Sorry, you grammarians. All right. And finally, what we've done wrong is we have abdicated a lot of our responsibilities. The personal responsibility, the choice, the personal responsibility to participate knowledgeably in our food system. You ask the average person, name me 3 vegetables that grow in the ground. Well, I didn't know any of them grow in the ground. You know, name me 3 vegetables that can handle frost. I don't know anything. What do you mean? Frost? You know, oh, that's when I put on a coat, right? I mean, we don't. I mean, it's like the 8th graders that got off the bus the other day at the farm, and they said, "Take us to the salsa tree. We want to go pick some salsa." I mean, you know, 30 years ago, all of our customers. And all of our customers are women, by the way. I'll be very sexist, right? All right, none of our customers are men. Men just open the refrigerator, look in, grunt, say, "I can't find it, honey." Close the door. That's all men do. So all of our customers are women. 30 years ago, all of our customers knew how to cut up a chicken. If they wanted a boneless, skinless breast, they took a knife, you know, and cut it up, carve it up, right? Today, half of our customers don't even know a chicken has bones. I mean, they think we go out and pick out chicken, you know, breasts like they're just, you know, kind of down here. We pick them up off the ground like potatoes. You know, you've got to tell them that a morsel of a nugget of chicken in the shape of Dino's the dinosaur is not a muscle group on a chicken. So if we want to eliminate this abdication, we've got to start thinking differently. Okay, here's the positive, the alternative. Quickly, we've got another little bit. All right, let's look at the alternative. Let's stop with the positive. First of all, building soil. What would it mean? How can we build soil as a nation? And I would say the first way to build it is to eliminate the subsidies of tillage and go back to a perennial prairie polyculture under management intensive grazing programs to restore the grasslands. You know, I think it's fascinating that 600 years ago, what is today the U.S. grew far more animal protein than it does today with all the hybridization, genetically modified organisms, and chemical fertilizers. We grew way more nutrition 600 years ago than we do today, even with all of our technology. That's an astounding fact. And how was it done? It was done because wolves and buffalo and antelope and coyotes moved in mobs across the plains and vacated areas so that those areas could grow in this great sigmoid curve of biomass accumulation. See, grass grows in an S curve. Don't break out in song here, all right? Watch my S, you see? All right, S. I call this diaper grass, teenage grass, nursing home grass. What we want to do is keep the grass but in the teenage growth phase. With overgrazing, with continuous grazing, the grass stays down here at diaper stage. With elimination and environmental abandonment, like Nature Conservancy preaches, we all go to nursing home grass. Either spectrum, one diaper, one nursing home, neither one collects solar energy to metabolize it into biomass. See, the point is, why do I have a big brain and opposing thumbs? You know, monkeys can't do this, you know, opposing thumbs and a big brain. Is it so I look in the mirror and say, well, that's so I can be a more clever rapist of the earth? Or is it possible that my big brain and opposing thumbs are to use my cleverness and creativity to massage this ecological womb, to caress her as a lover and tease forth greater metabolisms of solar energy into vegetable decomposable biomass to build organic matter in the soil than nature would do in a static state? And I suggest the latter is a great calling and a wonderful land healing ministry. We now have amazing technology with computer microchip energizers, with electric fences, that we can control animals, we can control herbivores to mimic these movement patterns. So on our farm, we'll put, 500 head in 2 acres for a day. I mean, it's this tall. When I say grass is much more efficient at accumulating solar energy into vegetable material than trees or brush. In the echelon of efficiency of carbon sequestration, grass is up here, then bushes, then trees. So if we really want to restore soil, we restore our prairies, our perennials, our prairie grasslands. But we do it with herbivores who are God's pruners to prune that nursing home grass back to the restart button. We call the herbivores, we call them the biomass accumulation restart button. And what we do on our farm, we're removing these to biomimic these natural templates of large herbivorous populations around the world, and every area has them. I mean, from alpacas to llamas to guinea pigs to camels to elephants to bison to caribou. That's why they're here, is so that this biomass accumulation grass doesn't go out here to nursing home and sit there. It's to prune them back like a viticulturalist would prune a vineyard or an orchardist would prune an apple tree for verdant growth. And yet the environmentalist abandonment folks want to get rid of all the cows as if they're belching and melting the methane. 1 acre of grass through cows generates more oxygen than 2,000 cows. And so what we have is pseudoscience and ridiculous notions, agenda-driven UN long watch, all assuming feedlot, grass-finished, irrigated monocrops to feed herbivores, when what they really are is a big 4-legged portable sauerkraut vat fermentation tank taking perennials. And as soon as you move them into a perennials, all the scientific data changes. So what we do on our farm, we call mob stocking, herbivorous solar conversion, lignified carbon sequestration, fertilization. And if all the herbivorous farms in the United States would practice this principle, in fewer than 10 years, it would sequester all the carbon that's been emitted since the beginning of the industrial age. That's how efficacious it is. Okay? And that's the truth. All right, so soil building is the best way to do it. Okay, and that is why Eugenia, who is, and with her sister Maria, who put this together with the college, is running these carbon economy series to help people to understand that ultimately it's not a Dow Jones industrial average, it's a carbon economy. And no civilization can be healthier than its soil. All wealth eventually springs from the soil, and all true economies spring from how we cycle solar energy from carbon. Number 2, hydrating the landscape. Well, what are we going to do about that? Well, first of all, we need to be building ponds or tanks or dams or whatever you call them here in Texas. We call them ponds. But anyway, we need to be building these ponds. If all of the tillage used right now, using petroleum, and I'm not opposed to using petroleum. I think petroleum is essentially a bonanza that we have been blessed with in our day to heal the devastations of past civilizations. So if we took our clever machinery and petroleum, and instead of planting corn to feed cows, if we used all that energy to build ponds out here in the landscape, if we had been doing that and would do it today, we would literally eliminate flooding, eliminate drought, and recreate Eden. That's the big brain and opposing thumbs put to good use. See, the tragedy of our day is not that we're lazy. We're not lazy. You're not lazy. I'm not lazy. We got an appointment book, right? And we got or stuff on our appointment. Who has an appointment book? Well, I do, but yeah, you got them on your smartphones, right? I don't even know how to. I've got a flip phone. That's how technology I am. I get to flailing around here, turn off my technology. So anyway. So here we are, okay? We're busy. We're busy doing things. The tragedy of our day is not that we're lazy. It is that we are busy doing the wrong things. So if we can adjust our busyness to attacking the true weak links, suddenly things change. So building ponds, building organic matter and vegetative cover by going to an herbivorous perennial symptom like the bison did, that built the soils. Sir Albert Howard, arguably the godfather of sustainable agriculture and the inventor of the modern scientific aerobic composting method, in his book, in his seminal book in 1943, An Agricultural Testament, said, "It is the temptation of every culture to take what nature spent a millennia to create, deep soils, and turn it into cash." Perennials rather than annuals. And we need to be building cisterns. We need to collect the water that hits our roofs and put them into cisterns. I'm still dreaming for the day. Talk about a. This could be a. You've only been doing this 40 years, right? Now. So you can start a new business. I'm looking for the turnkey business that comes in to the Dallas Metroplex. Okay, knock on the door. What's your business? All right, here's our business. You go on to work today, and $20,000, we will turnkey your entire house and structure into an environmental catalyst. So we're going to put in a cistern and catch your roof water. We're going to put in a gray water return system to get the potable water out of your toilet. That'll drop your water use in half. And then we're going to put a solarium on the side of your house so you can heat your house in the winter. We're going to put perlite and compost on your roof so you can eliminate the air conditioner because the house will be so cool. We're going to plant squash and cabbage up there, hangs down over the roof. You can reach out your window and pick cucumbers out the window. And okay? And what you have at the end of the day is you have, in the solarium, you have winter food production. Now we don't have to ship in anything from outside. We can produce all of our mesclun mixed lettuce and cabbages in the wintertime, passively heat our house, and we can have a living roof up there. We can have a cistern, so now there's no storm water. We can live off the water that generates from our own roof, so now the city doesn't have to pump water to us, and it doesn't have to take wastewater away because all the roof water is going to go. Are you with me? Suddenly, you have a self-reliant, resilient system. And this is not high tech. It's just basic stuff off the wall. Number 3, integration. We desperately need kitchen chickens. We need solariums on the side of buildings. We need edible landscaping. What if this college took all their ornamentals and turned them into edibles? And you could, make them sexy by making a smartphone app, right? Divide the campus up into a grid, tenth of an acre blocks, 1 through 500, right? And so every morning the kids get up and they get the phone app and it says, the strawberries in quadrant 35 are ready to pick. So all the kids run over, and pick the strawberries. And the next day the phone app says, the asparagus in quadrant 45 is ready to pick. So all the kids run over and, pick asparagus. The kids just kind of graze from class to class, okay? And we put solariums on the side of all the buildings, so now we don't have any heat bill in the winter. We put all the roofs into living roofs, so now we don't have any air conditioning in the summer, so we eliminate all those heat bills. We run all the storm water into cisterns. We take the wellness center and the exercise things, we hook them up to pumps that pump the water from the cisterns up onto the roof so we can keep the plants growing on the roof. And what happens is the whole campus becomes a nest of abundance. We desperately need, in times of scarcity, our culture is now paranoid of running out of things, running out of air, running out of soil, running out of water, running out of money, running out of, we're not scared of running out of Hollywood, unfortunately, but we're running out of things, and a lot of people are scared. And in that time of fear and concern about running out, we desperately need to nest ourselves into the earth's sufficiency and abundance as an example of God's grace to us. Because ultimately, this is not a place of scarcity. It's a place of abundance. And it's how we interact with it and nest into this landscape that creates that abundance. It's not environmental to figure out how to do a composting program from kitchen scraps. What's really environmental is to look and say, well, how were these done in the past? And we should be putting a chicken house up against the dining hall so the kitchen scraps come out, go into the chickens eat them and lay eggs, and it goes in. Now we don't have to bring in eggs from anywhere, and now we don't have to ship any compostable materials 10 miles out to a compost, so it can be imported to the ornamentals. And now there's nothing that goes on a diesel truck. And it's all integrated. If every kitchen in the U.S. had enough chickens to eat its kitchen scraps, there would be no egg industry, and none of that would go into the landfill. It would eliminate landfill by 40%. Number 4, integrity of pasture-based, locally dominated systems. Countless of cows, we talked about that. Natural patterns and templates to create transparency and short chains of custody, localized system. If it's not healing, it's not acceptable. Number 5, diversity, okay? We've got to have farms with multi-speciation, relationally complex, and so we use pigs to make compost. We use egg mobiles behind the cows. We use stacking of plants and animals and hoop houses, intersecting landscapes. This diversity complexity creates resilience and stability. And finally, number 6, participation. We need to get rid of this notion that we can just abdicate our responsibility. We've got to reinstitute a jazzed up love affair with domestic culinary arts. We've got to begin thinking about what we're going to eat tomorrow. You know that 85% of Americans at 4 o'clock have no clue what's for dinner. I mean, we think more about where we're going to stop for gas and where we're going to stop for food. And a lot of people stop for food where they stop for gas. You know, if you're getting your food from the gas station, you got real problems. And so we need to covenant with ourselves, ultimately. The world that our grandchildren inherit is going to be the world that is the physical manifestation and culmination of all the decisions that we make between now and then. Just like the world we have right today is the physical manifestation of all the decisions that have been made from our predecessors. And if we want a different world, if we want a world of abundance and a world of plenty and a world of sufficiency and provision, it is going to take us looking in the mirror and deciding, I'm going to participate. We don't need the vending machines down the hall. Bring some jerky with you from home that you made from the local farmer, from the beef that you bought in season from Grass Finish, okay? All you got to do is think ahead. You don't need Lay's potato chips out there. Just bring a couple snacks you made from home. My wife makes granola, okay? We haven't bought breakfast cereal in, how long have we been married? 32 years. I mean, think ahead, plan ahead. I mean, we preserve, we dehydrate, we do all these cool things. Some people don't even have freezers anymore. I mean, look, root cellars. What happened to the larder? What happened to food security? Ultimate food security is when we can see it and we can participate with it knowledgeably and in an informed way. Know your farmer. Okay? Turn off the TV. People ask me, what's the first thing I can do? The first thing is turn off the TV, all right? Or I guess in Texas I can say, take your wild boar rifle and put a bullet through it, right? That'll give you some time to think and be innovative and be creative. Cancel the Caribbean cruise. Stay here when you're going to go on that and can tomatoes. Make salsa. Get people together in your church, your civic club, your class, and can together and find out that a canner doesn't explode and you can make things together. And we can begin to participate. And that's the privilege we have, is we have this unmistakable privilege of being able to participate as co-laborers, as team players, as caressers of a loving earth into helping this umbilical, this umbilical that we're attached to become more productive, more sustainable, and more regenerative. That is a privilege. And I trust that we will each covenant to participate in that great land healing ministry for, as the theme of this summit says, for the betterment of our people, our planet, and our profits. It is a time of abundance. If we will embrace this participatory mentality, look in the mirror and say, today, I will begin making the decisions that will leave the planet, the people, and the profits in place for plenty for my grandchildren. Thank you for letting me visit with you. Blessings on you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.